June 6, 1944, was supposed to mark the beginning of the end for Nazi Germany. But history is often decided by moments that almost didn't happen. Because if just a few things had gone differently that morning, worse weather, faster German response, a little less luck, D-Day might not be remembered as a victory, but as one of the greatest military disasters in history. An invasion crushed before it ever truly began. And if that had happened, the consequences wouldn't have stopped on the beaches of Normandy. They would have reshaped Europe, and possibly the world you live in today. The Allied invasion of Normandy was the largest amphibious assault ever attempted. More than 156,000 troops were sent across the English Channel to land on 5 heavily defended beaches: Utah, Omaha, Gold, Juno, and Sword. The goal was clear: establish a foothold in France, break through German defenses, and begin the push toward Germany itself. But the plan depended on timing, coordination, and a fragile element of surprise. Waiting for them was the Atlantic Wall, an immense network of bunkers, artillery positions, and minefields designed to repel exactly this kind of invasion. German forces knew an attack was coming. They just didn't know where or when. And in a scenario where that uncertainty disappears, everything changes. In this version of events, the weather doesn't just complicate the invasion, it works against it. Storm conditions delay key movements and scatter landing forces, while also giving German commanders time to fully mobilize. Field Marshal Erwin Rommel, who had been strengthening coastal defenses for months, is present and prepared. Instead of confusion and delayed response, the German defense is immediate and coordinated. Nowhere is this more devastating than at Omaha Beach. In reality, it was already the deadliest landing zone. But here, it becomes far worse. Landing craft are destroyed before troops can even disembark. Machine gun fire pins soldiers down in the surf. Units become disorganized within minutes. Attempts to reinforce the beach fail under relentless artillery and air resistance. At the same time, German panzer divisions move quickly toward the coastline, something the Allies had feared most. Without a secure foothold, the invasion begins to collapse. By the end of the day, Allied forces are no longer fighting to advance. They're fighting to survive and withdraw. The failure of D-Day sends shockwaves across the Allied world. In the United States, Franklin D. Roosevelt faces a public grappling with the scale of the loss. In Britain, Winston Churchill is forced to confront the reality that years of planning have led to disaster, tens of thousands of casualties, and no position gained in Europe. The second invasion is no longer a question of when, but if. Rebuilding the necessary forces, regaining strategic advantage, and attempting another crossing could take years, time the Allies may not have. Meanwhile, across the Channel, Adolf Hitler interprets the failed invasion as proof that Western Europe can be held. German defenses are reinforced, and additional resources are directed westward to prevent any future attempt. Without a Western front, the balance of the war begins to shift. While the Allies regroup, the Soviet Union continues its advance from the east. Under Joseph Stalin, Soviet forces had already been pushing back German armies with massive momentum. In real history, this advance eventually met Allied forces moving in from the west. But in this scenario, there is no Western advance to meet them. With Germany fully engaged and no pressure from a second front, Soviet troops pushed deeper into Europe than ever anticipated. Berlin still falls, but it doesn't mark a dividing line. Instead, it becomes a gateway. From there, Soviet influence spreads further west into territories that would have otherwise been liberated by Allied forces. The political future of Europe begins to take a very different shape. If D-Day had failed, the map of modern Europe would likely be unrecognizable. Without Allied liberation, much of Western Europe could have fallen under Soviet influence, either directly or through political pressure. Germany may have been entirely absorbed into a communist sphere, rather than divided. France and other nations, weakened and isolated, might have faced similar outcomes. The Iron Curtain, instead of dividing Europe in half, could have extended all the way to the Atlantic coast. Institutions like NATO may never have formed in the same way, or at all. The balance of global power would shift dramatically, creating a much stronger Soviet presence on the world stage. The Cold War, as we understand it, would look very different, more unbalanced, and potentially more dangerous. Even everyday life across Europe, from governments to economies to culture, would likely have followed a completely different path. D-Day is often remembered as a decisive turning point in World War II, but its success was never guaranteed. It was a moment where planning, timing, and circumstance all had to align just enough to succeed. Because if they hadn't, the outcome wouldn't have just changed the war, it could have changed the course of modern history itself. So the question is, how different do you think the world would be today if D-Day had failed? Subscribe to History Rewritten Stories for more stories where history takes a different turn.